Hello, my friends. How are you today? Well, it started off a great day. It's my son's birthday, right? He turned 16, and that's super exciting. I got to meet him 16 years ago today. It was one of the best days of my life. And, it's pretty cool to get to celebrate him. So we started that celebration yesterday. And like I said, it was just kind of like a really one of those strange kind of experiences where like so many people I knew had this like kind of like, I don't know, this like skepticism or like, they just didn't want to get their hopes up or whatever, like even around here. And like, I don't know, so it was different because usually it's like everybody's like, yeah, like I always the experience is like, people being like super positive and cautiously like optimistic about it. And I don't know, this year is a little different. So we got to celebrate him and we had lots of like yummy food and like, we all got to be together. But obviously that being the Super Bowl, it didn't necessarily like always feel like it was his birthday, even though it was like decorated and all that stuff. And, we had done so much of the celebrating yesterday. And, so then, of course, like we start the game. The Niners doing, we're up ahead. We're up, right? And if you follow football, at the end, we lost. And I'm like we, as if I played, but like the 49ers lost. And I think like, like the hard part for me, like I was saying before the game, is like just my spirit and my mentality is kind of like, I'm like, you guys, like think about it. Like it is not about like think about it like this. Like you get to see your favorite team play one more game this season and it's the biggest game of the year. So like you guys won. Like you're winning. Like you're going to watch this game regardless, and you get to watch your team, the team that you root for, and you like all the players, like yeah. So, like that's how I think about it. I'm like, it's like, it's about the journey. It's about like the experience of everything getting to there. But of course, like, I don't know, there's this part that of us that like values the winning over, like the loss almost like in a way trumps the whole year and the whole season. It's like, like a few points separated us in a few seconds of a game. Like, I don't know. So it's like, it's kind of sad because like, to me, in my experience, it's not all about like that finality. Like it's not all about the end. And it's just like right now, like over the whole house, there's just like this like awkward, just kind of quiet. And I'm like, like we can't control what happened in that game, but like we can control how we respond. Like, yeah, we took some time and everybody, needed to like, kind of like process and decompress or whatever. And but I'm like, let's just rally, let's do something together, to just make like, I don't know, like I don't know, I think like ending it on such a sad note is just like, it's just so not in my, it's just not in my character. Like I feel really uncomfortable in that. And because like I just feel like it like minimizes all the great things like for this. Okay, so if you're a big fan of something, it minimizes like the journey, like the process, all the great games and moments that took to get there. It all counts to if you win or lose. I mean, it doesn't mean like you're not going to still be a fan and support this team in future seasons, like none of that. So it's like, yeah, I get like you get sad or disappointed that like the team you wanted to win didn't win. And I just feel like, again, like it's just so sad that so much of, our attention and focus goes on who wins and who loses. And like at the end of the day, every one of those kids out there, because they're kids, they're all younger than me now, but every one of those kids out there are winners. Like they had these dreams when they were kids to like grow up and play in the Super Bowl, and they did it. Like they achieved it. And yes, I guess probably the dream went a little further and they lifted the trophy and the glitter, the confetti was all for them. But like you lived a part of your dream, and like how awesome is that? Like that is so freaking cool, like of course there was like something And it, like, you know, like I was making appetizer things, and you know, I happened to go in and I see, and it was talking about this thing, and it was like Logan's Legacy it was. And so of course you hear the piano, and you know, I'm like, oh, here it's coming. You know, I know this is gonna be something like that's like a tearjerker or something, but it catches my attention. So I sit down, you know, I want to give the respect. I'm like, obviously by saying legacy, you know, like my brain could come to some conclusions. And it starts talking about this young boy named Logan, and he had become a Carolina Panthers fan, and he had become a big McCaffrey fan, and he would like save his money for like jerseys and things like that. And it ended up being like one day he had like a sore throat, and I think it was like in January, they said it was like a sore throat and a fever and something. And so they went to the hospital, and he ended up being diagnosed with cancer. And he was a young kid. And you know, then it talked about how at the end like it was like Christmas Day, like he felt ill, like he had went through all this treatment, and on Christmas Day he ended up like going into the hospital and slipping into a coma. And it was talking about how like a friend of like a distant friend had told Christian that, you know, there was this kid with cancer who, you know, adored him. And so I guess like he had ended up like recording a video for him, like, because they had like asked, like, not the parents, but like whoever this person was had said, do you think you could like sign a jersey for him, or you know, something. And so he like took the initiative to take it further and was like, hey, at least I can do is like, you know, sit here and videotape something. So he was like, hey Logan, you know, and said like these things. And like then it showed like the mom, and the mom was saying like, see, it's so hard. Sorry. So the mom was saying like she was convinced like this was the last, like those were the last words he heard. And like I guess he had like a tear or whatever before he passed away. And like I just think, oh my gosh, you know, like there's nothing different from all of us than Logan, really, you know, like besides some DNA or some part of your body that turned against you. And so like, yeah, like it's disappointing, right? It's disappointing that, you know, like I've been a fan of the 49ers since I was a little kid. So I've had the pleasure of seeing him win a football, but like, I don't think Chris has, like, he hasn't been a fan of him his whole life. And I know my kids haven't, you know, they've seen them get that far. And then, you know, here was all this extra excitement because it was also on Tyler's birthday. So how momentous is that, right? But like, really, the scheme of life, like it you know, we all could be Logan at some point, and like they got to at least experience their dreams. So anyways, McCaffrey. So I'll continue to you know, shout out Logan's legacy. What, you know, one part that had also got me was they said that like afterwards he read more about him in his obituary and things like that, and he had connected with the family. And they were talking about how when he was in the hospital and stuff, he was use like the Xbox, and he was able to like communicate with his friends and like have this like stress relief by playing like the video games. And like that just connected so much too, because like through Dylan's injuries and things like that, like, and when he had his brain stuff, like literally that was the first thing he did, like after like he had woken up and did something, like he couldn't still talk at this point or whatever. This was like a couple days after. And it was just too much, you know, for him, like too much pain, you know, his head's wrapped, all these things. And he would like motion me to get him like the keyboard. And then like he was like on there, he went on his like YouTube and was watching his like YouTube. It was like somebody who like talks about the video games, and like he would open these packs or whatever. It was like this daily thing. And so he like literally figured it out. I'm like, okay, he's gonna be okay, because at least he can do this. Like, you know, he figured out how to get in, how to, you know, get on the TV, how to do this. And then like eventually they ended up giving him like a remote control, and he got to play video games in there. And like it was like it, you know, like I said, I've never been a big fan of him, but I've grown to have this fondness because it's been this vehicle for like they were saying, and I was like, they understand what I'm talking about, like, and I was like, so I'm like interested in this cause now, like, because like it was, you know, they were saying that they've been able to get more Xboxes into like 9 hospitals and stuff, and we were fortunate enough to be in a hospital, you know, that's highly funded and in the Bay Area, and have a lot of, you know, tech, you know, resources and philanthropy. But I understand that across the country and the world, especially, like, many hospitals don't have all that, those same luxuries. And so like it just really made me think like how special that was, because it's so true. It's like, you know, when you're in a hospital and you're in this environment that like is very isolating and scary, it's just so cool to know that like you can get behind a video game and you can just be a normal kid for a little bit again, and like, and to be able to see them like to remove themselves temporarily from the kind of like battle that they're fighting is really beautiful. And so like to see him when he was, you know, they showed some clips of him playing, and it just like, it was just so special to me. And I just thought, I already liked McCaffrey, and I, you know, the fact that he has gone above and beyond to like help to continue his legacy, I think that that is just such a beautiful thing. So shout out to you and shout out to that. So like, how can I be sad, right? Like, I don't know, like, I know you can be, right? Like, and nobody's saying, oh, you're wrong or you're bad for that. But like, you know, I have this like ability to like take myself back and be like, but I'm here. I gotta watch the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, it didn't end the way I wanted, you know, and there's a winner and there's a loser, you know, but we just look at things like the fact that like we wake up today, the fact that like we had the opportunity to watch the game, like those are all things, like the people that got to play in it or contribute like in their, you know, big and little ways, you know, from the people that like painted the field to the people that like organized the events, and you know, like how many people went into making that possible in the first place. So like, I don't know, like it just makes life that much more beautiful when you experience and enjoy the journey. Like I was so sad, like I get, like I said, like I think because I have this like heart for like injuries, and I have this heart for stories, so like of course like they show this one player Greenlaw in the beginning, I'm like, oh yeah, he's one of my favorites, and the kids are like, that's, you know, because he's not like this, you know, he's not the QB, or he's not the, the ones that everybody knows. I'm not drafting him on my fantasy football team. And they're like, really? I'm like, no, he is the boss. Like, he is so good. He is like part of the reason why, like a major reason. Like, there were a couple plays in these last few games that we had that I was like, oh, if it wasn't for him, we would not even have been in this thing. And like, it was again, like, just like, again, it was a different injury than Dylan's, but like, it was just this non-contact. He was so hyped. Like, and then of course my kids tell me like 15 minutes, 20 minutes before, they're saying, you know, like, I was like, oh, he's like one of my favorite players. And like, they were like surprised, right? So as I said, and they're like, oh, he had a tough life. And I was like, oh, now I love him even more now, you know. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to have to get onto the internet and deep dive and find out more information about him. But like, my heart ended up breaking later on in the game. And I'm just like feverishly looking on there, like, what happened? You know, like replaying the thing. And I was like, maybe heel, maybe Achilles, maybe, you know, ankle. Like at first, because it was just non-contact, I was like, knee, you know, is it PTSD? Like, oh no, what's happening here? And, I just felt so sad, because it was like, again, like, here this kid is, he's been this major impact to help them to even achieve this accomplishment. I mean, not that everybody on the team isn't, but like he had some very specific major contributions to it. And he's just hyped up, right? He is hyped up, getting ready, going to run on the field, and he injures his Achilles. Like, this is how quick our lives change. And like, I remember, because I don't know if you follow football or anything, so if you're not a sports fan, sorry, it's the end of the season, we won't be talking too much about it, but I have become one, you know, having lived with so many men in my life. But and not that that's the reason, but that's like who influenced me from a long time. And then just, I think again, like, it's so beautiful to watch somebody be passionate about something and talk about things that they're passionate about, whether you're passionate about those things or not. I just think it's really cool. to see how people light up when they talk about the things that they love. But anyways, to not get too technical in it and everything like that, but like I remember when Aaron Rodgers tore his at the beginning of the season, we obviously were already in PT for Dylan's, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, what are we talking here? How long of a recovery? And they're like, okay, the ACL is like one of the absolute worst. They're like, but the Achilles is even probably a little bit worse than this one. And I was like, oh, okay, that gives me a scale, because I already know how, you know, how bad this was. And obviously there's new technologies, because like Aaron Rodgers was potentially going to come back, and I'm sure, you know, hopefully he'll have, you know, the best treatments available, and if there's any new cutting edge technologies, you know, he'll be privileged with that. But I'm like, damn, I can't imagine, like, if he was out a year, I mean, that's the entire next season. Like, this was the last game. Like it is February, they start back again in August. So like, I'm like, March, April, May, June, July, August, like that is 6 months from now. And like, I think back, like Dylan's surgery was just 6 months ago. And like, I don't know, it's just crazy. Like, I don't know, it's crazy to think about things like that. And I'm like, you know, like, especially when it's like somebody who has overcome so many challenges. Like, again, I get this like almost like protection, you know, like I don't even know this kid, but it makes me so sad. Like, I feel so bad, because it's like, you know, there's this like part of me that wants like justice, and like, okay, we only get so much adversity, like it's time to give this one a break. Like, there is billions of people. Let's spread out the, you know, the college essay topics, or, you know, like the you know, the ways to overcome. Like, they, you know, they don't need 15 different things to write a novel about how resilient they are. Like, they just need one or two, you know, like, you know. And it's so like, it just, I think probably too, you know, there's a part of me that like can relate, that like, it's like, you know, you try to stay so in faith, like you try to stay so strong, and then sometimes you're just like, it's too much. It's just too much. And then, you know, you work through it, and you're like, wow, okay, I guess it wasn't too much, because I overcame it, and I grew, and I learned, and, you know, hopefully I've been able to take those lessons, and I'll be able to teach somebody else so they can learn from my mistakes, or I can at least support them when they make the you know, like, I do believe that there's like reasons and things like that, but like, sometimes it's like, cause some people just give them a break. They're good. like, I don't know why so much for some people, you know, like, let's spread it out. Like, and I know life isn't fair, and I know that none of this is, you know, it's all character building moments, and I know all that, but sometimes it's just tough to hear the struggles that people go through. And I mean, it is beautiful too, because, right, there's always that other side, you know, there's that, you know, it's that whole, you know, hierarchy of a story and of life. And it's, you know, it's inspiring. Like, it connects to, you know, like, obviously, like, it like connects to me. So I'm like, hey, look, guys, why aren't we celebrating more for Tyler's birthday? Like, we all got our Achilles. None of us have cancer as far as we know. Like, yeah, we watched the Super Bowl together. We ate some good food. We hung out all together. Tyler, you got some fun presents, and like, you know, let's do something now, and like, let's celebrate. And that's just me. And I know that that's not everybody, but, and I know that like, that is also me today. I don't know if at 16, at 17, at 27, at 37, at even 42, you know, I would be where I am today and have that kind of opinion or belief. So no judgment on anybody that isn't, but I'm just like, okay, this is, again, like going back to like my whole philosophy of things is like, we can't control what happens, right? Like, he couldn't control that his Achilles would tear just being pumped, trying to run back on the field. Like, he wasn't even like in a play. Like, he was from the sideline running into the field. Like, there was nothing he can do about that. There was zero, you know, like, it was just a freak accident. Like, nothing is that was not in his control. Like, you know, like, so many things in life are just not in our control, but how do we react? How do we respond? That is. And so like, it's fine. It's good to take the time and be like, okay, everybody, we need like 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, like, let's not talk, like, let's process, clean, however that individual people like to process things, do that, and then like be like, okay, and now we come back together and, have a good time, laugh, like play a game, like go get some ice cream, go to a restaurant, order a cake, like something else. I don't know. So I think that, again, I can't control anybody else, so I can only control how I respond. I can suggest things, and I went over and, I let him have his space. I spent, like, I went and laid with him for just, not laid with, but like he was laying on his bed. I kind of sat and put my head on him, and then I let him have his space. He wanted to be, in there and just kind of chill. So I let him do that. And then, I let some more time go by, and I went in and I got myself, like, there is this on Apple Music, and I don't know who found it. And I want to say it was Chris, and it's absolute gold, absolute gold. So I told you, I love playlists, right? So I have many playlists on my phone that just go with the different mood and the vibe, right? Like, I have like one playlist, that's like happy music, or, workout songs, or, chill vibe jams. Like, I always have these weird ones. Like, I have one that like is like, they're just crazy, and they're the stupidest names. Like, I have ones that are like called Jerry and Betty for my aunt and uncle. I have one called Grandma. I have one called Mom. Like, there are many, many playlists, but my favorite that on a birthday is my birthday playlist, right? Because like I would always sit there and like try to find songs on my birthday or somebody else's birthday, just to kind of get you in that birthday. It's a birthday, and so there's this song, and it's by like, oh my gosh, I think it's like by this, some kind of birthday band, something. Let me see here. Okay, let me see here. Anyways, it was called like the birthday band something, and it's the funkiest song, but like they'll have everybody's name on there. So it's like, he's like, hey, Tyler, Tyler, it's your birthday. So I went in and I went over to him. He was now like in the bathroom. And so, typical mom, I just, put the phone to the door and, put that on. And I was like, okay, now it feels like your birthday again. Like when the birthday band song comes on, it's your birthday. And, all the other, there's like so many funky birthday songs on there, and it's just fun. And like I say, most of them, like I have the playlist, it'll be like, happy birthday, Dylan, happy birthday, Tyler. So like everybody's names are in there, and it's ready to fire up when those birthdays come. So yeah, so ended up like doing that. And, he said he wanted to take a shower, and I'm going to let him be. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to come in and do this. So, I was just checking right now to see like, okay, has there been any kind of mood change, or, if he wants to do something or not. So yeah, like it is what it is. But, I hope in time, like that, like, as I have, like that they learn. And I think that they're usually pretty good because they are athletes themselves. And so they're continually put in this position of being a winner or loser, or their sport particularly happens to tie a lot too. So that's another, option. But like sometimes like a tie is kind of like, it was a kind of, so there's been a couple games that are like 0-0 ties, and I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like I absolutely like wasted a bunch of time, doing this. But it's a short game, so it's like, it's not that bad. But like, like sometimes you're just kind of like, I wanted some action. This is kind of, 0-0. I mean, sometimes that doesn't mean there is no action. It just means nobody scored. Like, it was like a really good matchup. So, or unlucky or whatever it was. But, my hope is for my kids that they can learn how to process their things in their own way, and know that like, if you're having a part of the journey, you're winning. And that's, I think the biggest point I want to get across today is like, sometimes we get so focused on the destination. We get so focused on the reward at the end and, you know, what's going to happen. And we just put so much like investment into this one thing, this one little part at the end. And it almost overshadows all the amazing things. Like, if I was to say, like, okay, when I began my health journey, if I began, and I mean, I'm just hypothetically thinking out of the box right now, like on the fly. So if I would have said, okay, I want to lose 150 pounds. I'm 300 pounds. I want to lose 150. And this is the goal. And like, if that was my whole focus all the time, I feel like the energy that I would have put in this entire journey, all the ups and the downs, and the days I did it right, and the days I did it wrong, and the days I felt really weak because I didn't eat enough, and the days that I felt sick because I ate way too much, or, you know, like when I was trying to figure out like when was the perfect time for me to eat, like what was my window that would work, you know, like it didn't come all at once. Like mastering anything takes 10,000 hours at minimum, right? And so you think about it, how many hours in a day, like how much effort and time do I have to put into like remastering my life? It's a lot. And that doesn't mean it's going to go on that first take and I'm going to get it right. Or, you know, the external influences in your life. I mean, you have hormones, you have like life events, you have relationships, you have children, you have schedules and work and bills, and you have all these external forces in addition to your own decision making that you're making and like your own plans. Like these other forces have their own plans and requirements and energy too. You have vacations, you have, you know, like holidays, like there are so many factors on a day-to-day basis that, you know, compete with whatever these decisions that you're making in your life. And so if my only purpose was to get to a certain number on a scale, I feel like I would have got there and I would have been like, and now what? You know, like this was the goal and this was this. And then if I never got there, if I was at 155, would I then be a failure? No, I'm not a failure. I did all this and it doesn't matter. Like I say, I still have no clue how much I weigh. Don't want to know. I literally like, there's no reason. If I was to go to a doctor's, I will say, please do not tell me. Like I am serious. I will not step on the scale if for some reason I am going to find out, because there's just no point. And I know there is a part of me that if I knew what the number was, I will either have won or lost. I will either be really, really happy or I'll be really sad. Like I'll be like, oh damn, you know, I will be something. And I know I will have an effect. And why would I ever be sad about everything I've accomplished? Like I would have to just, and I'm not saying it would be a lifetime sadness, you know, but it would be something that would have an effect on me. So why am I going to put myself intentionally in this thing unless it's going to change anything? I mean, if I'm, you know, like I need a weigh-in to get on an airplane to be, you know, make sure the plane isn't going down, then fine. You know, like if I need a weigh-in and I need to know, like I can go zip lining, okay, fine. But like if I'm nowhere near the cutoff, then I'm not tripping. I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it because I know that I've already gone on a zip line when I was a little bit over the cutoff, and I'm here to tell a story. Now, granted, oh my gosh, yeah, it was not. This was when I had tried to lose weight doing that 1,200 calorie stuff. So I did. I worked out really hard, ate 1,200 calories. I ended up, we went on vacation. So it was just Chris and I. We went to an all-inclusive resort in Jamaica. Literally, when we got there, thought we were going to die. Like the driving situation, it was like some driver picked us up and I was like, holy crap, somebody needs to give me some alcohol in here. And I don't really drink that much at all, but I was like, straight up, my kids are going to have no parent. Like this, I don't even know what I was thinking going into like another country other than United States, leaving my 4 children at home alone, and they were young. And like Brad was 10 or about to be 10. So he was 9. That means Karina was 7. Tyler was 1 and Dylan was 3. And I left them. I left my babies. And then I get in a car with some random stranger driving through the islands of Jamaica, like an absolute lunatic. Which was the norm. You know, he was cool as a cucumber, and I was like, holy, let's pull out all those old Catholic prayers. Like, I got them all. You know, come on, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with me. But oh, it was so scary. So we get there, and during the trip, like, I was like, I've always wanted to go ziplining, and we're gonna go ziplining. I'm gonna do this, da 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 da. So we go, and we go, and we get up there, and now we're like this big group. And I was like, okay, guys, I'm really afraid of heights. So it would be really helpful for me, like, to just be able to go first so I can't see everybody else doing it and then chicken out. So they were like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. So we get there, and first off, like, it's sweaty and hot. It's humid. And we get this stuff. Straight up just smells like pure BO. I am like gagging so bad. It was so BO to the next. Like, it was like some sweaty BO person just pulled it off and they were going to put it on me. I was like heaving. It was so nasty. So I get this stuff on. I mean, I'm like trying to breathe. We got the helmet and everything. And they're like, okay, you have to weigh yourself. And I was like, I was like, no dice. Like, I am on this cut. I think the cutoff, I think, was like 2:30, and I think I like had just got there, but I have been eating and drinking already in this trip, and I was like, oh, I'm pretty damn sure I am not that number anymore. And so I like halfway stood on the scale, like in half nod, and like somebody else was doing something and they were like distracted, and they're like, okay, you're fine. So I was like, okay, good. So, but now I'm panicked. I know that I am now over the weight capacity for this experience, right? And I start now flashing. I'm flashing back to my kids at home in the United States, and I'm in Jamaica, and I get there and they clip me on, and I freaking get on this line, right? And I'm going, and I'm like, okay, I could do this. I'm doing this. They're like, and I'm not good. Like, I've almost died on a snowmobile because I flew off a cliff because I'm just not very good with sometimes with people telling me directions. And it's just, or reading them. Like, I'm not really, I understand this. This is a weakness of mine. And so I'm like, yeah, I got it. I didn't got it at all. I didn't have it. I wasn't even close to having it. So, oh my gosh. So I'm on this freaking zip line, right? And I'm going, and I'm like, I'm trying to just enjoy that there's like water underneath me and the trees and all this crap, right? Looking around. I'm in Jamaica. I'm just in the vibe, right? Like, I look, and I kid you not, there is a freaking tree, and then they just have a mattress wrapped around the tree. Just tied, two things tying it, and a guy standing there like, come on. I'm supposed to flail my body, you know? So I'm in the middle of the zip line, and I was like, oh, hell no. No. I am not, I'm gonna, like, the only thing between me and flying into a tree is a mattress. Like, no, this cannot be up to like OSHA standards. Like, this cannot be right. So I decided what's the best option to do is brake. So I pull the thing and I brake. So now I've really done it to myself. Now I'm just suspended in the middle of the zip line, and they're like, honey, you gotta reel yourself in. And I'm like, no, I need like someone to come get me. They're like, nobody can get you. You've got now an entire tour group behind you who cannot move because you are now suspended in the middle of the damn thing. And my glasses flew off because I was so panicked when I broke. Now I'm afraid of heights, and I'm looking down, and there's just, you know, an abyss of length between me and the ground, and I'm just there suspended, and I am like, oh my God, I'm mortified. I am like, this is insane. So I finally, it took forever. I finally like get myself pulled all the way in. And this was only 1 of 7. I still had to do this 6 more times. But at this point I was like, listen, I don't even care. I don't even care if the freaking tree takes me out at this point. Like, I just need to go. I just closed my eyes, and I was like, just go. Like, I'll be fine. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, But lesson learned, I don't know. I'm not a zip liner. I thought I would be, and I'm not. And, you know, I'm maybe under different conditions or something. Maybe again, if I tried it now, I don't know. It was a lot for me. It was a lot. It was so embarrassing. Like, I just remember the glasses flying. Some lady, thankfully, she ended up finding them and gave me my sunglasses. And just the whole, everybody knew me at the end of that thing, you know, because they're like all cheering me on, like, come on, go. And I was just like, I was back in that damn zoo on the ground with the llamas. I was like, nope, not moving anymore. There's no safety ladder. You know, there is no way we can come get you. You need to get yourself out of this situation you just got yourself into. Everybody's like, why would you have just stopped? You know, like, that's even worse. I was like, I know, it wasn't thought out. It was like, I just saw the mattress in between the tree and I was like, oh, hell no. I don't trust in that. Today, Satan. Like, this trip is gonna kill me. But it was a beautiful resort. It was called Beaches White House or something like that. It was really pretty. It was like a cool experience because, like, my thing was, like, if I'm going without my kids, and this was kind of like, we never had a honeymoon, we obviously never had a wedding, and so it was kind of like our 10-year anniversary. And like, Chris had a client who was a travel agent, and like, she like worked with him and like had got us like a really great deal on a package. And you know, it was just like kind of like, okay, that's how we spent our 10-year anniversary. But like, yeah, I was like, if I'm not going to be with my kids, I don't want to hear anybody else's. Like, I want to be on vacation. Like, and so it was kind of cool again, because like I said, I'm like frugal. So it was like, I got to like, know, like, okay, we went there, we spent that much, and beyond excursions, like, it was already like all paid for and taken care of, like, you know, or tip and things like that. Like, but like nominal, like, it wasn't like, okay, now we get here and we have to be like, how much are dinners or where we're going? And like, that's just like something that like just panics me. But it was like cool because we got to try like so many different foods and like cuisines that like we wouldn't have. And if we didn't like it, it was like, cool, I'll just go get something else. Like, it wasn't like any, like, it just didn't, it was easy, you know? So I enjoyed it. And like, they had great like activities and things like that, except for I was so freaking burnt. Like, and I put on sunblock like multiple times, but just literally like could not even put on my bra. I was like, I mean, I did, but I was just like, I'm dying. Like, just so like, even just showering, I was like, no, like, it was just painful. And the other thing was, like, bugs have always freaking loved me. Like, we used to go camping a lot when I was little. And there's this lake called Lake Berryessa. We went there, like, all the time. My dad had a boat. I think I've told you guys this story. Like, I literally, at 8 years old, would tow my dad. He would do skiing. And my brother was the flag person. And, you know, it was the only thing between my dad dying and I was like my eyesight. Like, it, you know, like, I had to like come in really close and then turn, you know, crank the boat so it would wrap the rope around him. I don't know if you've ever driven a boat or towed anybody water skiing, but it was, I mean, high pressure. And he was like, yeah, if you run over me, like, there's a propeller under the boat and you will die. Like, I will die. And I'm like, yeah, no worry, you know, no worry, little 8-year-old girl, like, no, you got this, you know, like, and I didn't want the responsibility. And my brother hated me because he always wanted to drive the boat. And I was like, please be my damn guest. My dad's like, no, absolutely not. You could do the flag and you don't even do that to my standards. So like, I was like, listen, I didn't ask for these responsibility. I don't even want it. You know, like, can't we just drive the boat? Like, why you gotta ski? Like, I don't know. I don't want to do all this. Like, but I did, and I got through it. But it was stressful, right? I don't want to have somebody's life in my hands. Like, that, I wasn't ready for that. Listen, I just wanted to play dolls and just hang out, maybe color, like, you know, like, enjoy the scenery. I wasn't in this for the responsibility business. But, yeah, there was always something. But we used to go to Lake Berryessa and I would get bit up. I was up like head to toe, always, like mosquitoes, anything with everything, always loved eating me. I don't know what the hell it is, but we went to freaking this Jamaica, right? We're on the beach, we're walking around looking at like they had a bunch of sand dollars all over. It was just cool, right? And that night I went back, my whole legs, I guess like sand fleas. or something later, like researched. I was so bit up and itchy. So I'm burnt, I'm bit up and itchy. Like, and Chris didn't give me any bites, not a one. I was like, what the hell? We were in the same place. Like, I don't know. I don't get this. So something sweet about my blood, it just like the bugs like. I'm like, ooh, gross. Get out of here. Get off me. Whatever it was. But it bit me up. I mean, even after I came home, it took a long time. I was like, ew, am I in a scar and look like this forever? Like, it took so long for it to heal. But yeah, there's always some kind of adventure going on in my life, I swear. But yeah, you know, I say all that again to say there isn't a whole lot to say today. Like, number one, I'm so grateful my son was born. Like, he is the only kid. So I have 4 kids. And, you know, just being completely 100%, he is my only kid that was planned. The other 3, I used 3 different forms of birth control, and lo and behold, they were just meant to be here because I'm either A, super fertile, which I do have, like, you know, that kind of curvy, you know, figure, so I can maybe say my body was made for breeding, and that's just what it did. I don't know. But yeah, 3 different forms of birth control failed, and so I have those 3 as a result of that. And then by the time I was like, listen, I don't like the odd numbers, let's get this one. And like I said before, I thought at that point I'd be like, oh, boy, girl, boy, girl. I'm gonna have it, you know, it'll be even. My daughter wanted a sister. Fine, I can do that for you, no problem, you know. But I adore him. I love, you know, I'm an oldest child, and I do believe that there is a lot of truth, like, in this whole birth order kind of stereotypes, I guess, or what it will be, what they called. Like, my oldest son has a lot of the tendencies, especially when he was younger, to like always be helpful and people please. And like, it's funny because my daughter's boyfriend is an oldest, and you can see those things. My son's girlfriend is an oldest. You can see those things. Like, you see the overachieving, the really, you know, a lot of them have very good grades, you know, just really helpful. They don't cause trouble. They, you know, they're this. And then, you know, the next ones are always a little bit of hellions, you know, they have like, I don't know what it is, but those second borns, they're hellions. Like, they're a little spicy. I like it, but it's also like, it's, you know, as a parent, it can be challenging. And again, this could be a different dynamic in everybody else's, but like, just statistically and historically speaking, and the people I know, it's just, this is how it is. And like, my middle children are very like a middle child, like, Dylan never would ever like complain about anything. It was just like, never, like, we'd be like, oh, what kind of pizza do you want? And like, you know, the oldest one would be like pepperoni, you know, or, you know, very plain. And then the daughter would be like, oh, I only want a veggie on half, and then half ham and pineapple. And then people will just throw it in, then some random thing. We're like, you don't even like that. Why do you got to be so different? You know, like, and then the middle child, Dylan, would be like, I'll eat anything. Like, you know, just easygoing, mellow, calm, you know. And then the youngest, they're little firecrackers. They're like, they grow up way too fast. They grow up way too quick. And like, you know, you're like a total underdog, because it's like, okay, great, Mr. 10-year-old to a 2-year-old. Yes, you can build a higher block stack. Wow. I mean, should we get you a medal now? Like, are you feeling good about yourself that your block stack is higher than your 2-year-old brother? You know, these are like the kind of things. And I'm like, but if you guys take these things, like, what you guys forget is like where Tyler is at 8 and where you guys were at 8, like, he is far beyond where you guys were in comparison, but you guys are looking down on him by 8, not down, but, you know, like, he's always competing. He's always the guy, you know, like, you know, having to work a little harder because he's competing against people 8, 6, and 2 years, excuse me, older than him. And so it's like, you know, all the little things. And I love the shenanigans because, you know, he has his own tough personality. He's super competitive, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, he could talk a big game, and he'll, you know, all these things. It's not like it's broke him. It's actually made him stronger, you know. And like I say, like you always say to my oldest son, like, really? You cannot freaking let him win on Chutes and Ladders? Do you really think I lost every single game of Chutes and Ladders to you in my life? You think I'm that bad at Chutes and Ladders or Connect Four? Like, oh no, I could not see that you were going there. And then I was still thinking to myself, I'm like, Dan, I should not have let him win all those games. I should not. I should have humbled him. I should have humbled him when I had the chance. So now when we play, again, it's a good amount of, not video games. We play a good amount of board games or card games. And I love it now when I get to humble my children like I did in fantasy football. Like, I'm like, here, yeah, I told you all. I did not intentionally, I did intentionally lose a lot of those Candyland games. Okay, a few of them you was your lucky day. Okay, you got those doubles, honestly, but I did not lose every single game. And so when I get the opportunity to be like, who's the champion? Who's the, and they're like, well, what did you win because of it? I'm like, bragging rights, that's all I needed, like, and it's not about winning or losing, but it just feels good to like rub it back in his face because that's the way they are. So I'm like, okay. But I'm like a super competitive person. That could be another reason too. Like for me, like I don't get like, I get the initial thing, like, looking around the room and feeling the energy in the room because I'm an energy, goblin here, like feeling the energy in the room shift, in those last seconds of overtime and, what you had hoped would have happened didn't. I get that. Like I get that on a total human level. And like, it just makes me, like, I get that. I mean, I'm not gonna even lie. There was a piece of me, and I swear, do not tell a soul. Like, I had tears in my eyes, and I was like, oh, just like, I just felt heartbroken. And it wasn't for me. I didn't really, like, it's not on a personal level. I felt heartbroken for the people I was in the room with. I felt heartbroken for my friends that like, and people I know out in the world that like were rooting so hard for this. And then I felt sorry for the actual team and the people that invested all the time. So it's like in a layer, like how close and how far I am, like from the people. And obviously I'm closest to myself, and then you layer out like my family and the things. So, I did my assessment, and I think it was sad for like I said, the obvious reasons. I now like had this extra story that gave Christian McCaffrey, which is one of the 49er players, this extra piece of humanity. He just wasn't just a player on the field running through, these freaking dudes the size of refrigerators to try to gain inches on a football field. Like he was this person that like took this time to reach out to a kid that was fighting for something serious, like, his life. And I'm not saying that football isn't serious, like, you don't have to come at me with that. Like, I'm just saying, like, it's a lot different, right? Like, we can all agree on that. And so to see that he has this, like, this other side, and I know most people do, but we just don't always hear about it. And when I hear about somebody's stories or hear about Greenlaw and that, like, my kids were saying, and it was interesting because just yesterday I was talking about that with my kids, and they were talking about like Siamese twins and how challenging and like the longest surgery ever. And this is how that story had came up. It was like my son said, okay, you guys guess, like we always do these kind of like weird kind of things, like guess what this is or whatever. So they're like, okay, guess how long the longest surgery was. And I think I guessed like 97 hours. I think it ended up being like 103 or something. And it was to separate two conjoined twins. I said Siamese. I'm sorry. I don't even know if that's the right thing. I just knew when I was a kid, that's what we called it, but I think it's actually conjoined. So my apologies. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. It was just literally the way my brain remembers it. And conjoined. So they were separating the two conjoined twins. And then we started talking about it. And then I was telling them how when Bradley had his heart surgery, we were at UCSF in San Francisco. And I remember being in there, and I would like, they had a small room. So whack. They had a small room because people came from all over the world. Like I said, at the time, this was one of the top 5 heart surgeons for pediatrics in the entire world. I don't know the ranking. I just knew he was top 5. And I obviously have told you before, if you listen, that ironically, and many years later, Bradley ended up playing soccer with a kid that was in the hospital at the same time and had the surgery a couple days either before or after Bradley. So they were literally in this, and the mom and I were passing each other in these, halls, and they came all the way from Hawaii. We were fortunate enough to live in the Bay Area. So, going to San Francisco was an obvious choice. We just, again, got so lucky that we happened to live where somebody who was in the top 5 in the entire world operated on hearts. And by the way, we have a kid with a broken heart. So it works out perfectly. But so they had this like room, and it was like a teeny tiny room. It was probably a 10 by 10 room. And it had a very tiny bathroom, and it had like multiple sets of bunk beds and I think one twin bed. And like I said, if I was in the hospital, I was at the hospital for Brad. Like I was in there the whole time. I barely left to eat. I barely left to do anything beyond pump. And I was still like pumping my breast milk or whatever for him, and storing it and, you know, like whatever. So that would be the only time I would leave like the room with him, because he was like, he had all these tubes still coming out of him. Like there were things I didn't even know existed. Like nobody had explained, like, this is what he is going to look like after. Like, I remember after the surgery, he was in a bed and it rolled past us, and I was like, oh, that's not Brad. That kid's way too big. But like, he was completely so blown up and swollen from being on a heart bypass machine where the, you know, blood isn't with the lungs, and like your blood is, it's stop. Like this stuff is crazy. Like the science is crazy. Like it's just absolutely nuts. But he had these like chest tubes because he was like really sick afterwards. Like he was not in well condition. Like he wasn't recovering well. And then it happened to be this poor young girl got in helivac'd into the hospital in the middle of the night. Like I said, I was at the hospital. Like I barely even slept. I would just stay by his side. Like I would maybe take a little nap in the rocking chair or whatever. But I was there. Like I'm your ride or die. I am here. But they had this room, and this room was for like families that would come or whatever. And so they had bunk beds, and usually like it was one parent, but Chris and I both were there a couple nights before he had to go back to work. And so we were in there very late with Brad, and we came back and all the beds were taken except for this top bunk. So there Chris and I are, blessings to the poor person beneath us. Poor Chris and I have to like come in. Everybody's asleep. It's like probably 2 or 3 in the morning. We're in there brushing our teeth. Like, you know, like even though the door's shut, it's still, you hear everything. You just hear the door opening and closing, and everybody in here, they have a sick kid. And then him and I are both climbing up into this top bunk of this bed. Thankfully, I wasn't 300 pounds at this point. I don't know. That person beneath may not have made it. But so we climb up there, and we're in there, and all of a sudden we're just about to fall asleep, and like, you know, we're like so tight together, there's like no room to move. And then he just rips one. Like he just rips one so freaking loud. I'm dying. I can't even, I cannot, like, this is not the time or place, but it was like, it was so good because it was so intense, right? You're crying, you're worrying, you're praying, you're seeing this sick baby of yours with like these things called chest tubes, and there's this yellow bile stuff that is coming out. There is a ginormous incision and these steri strips down his chest, you know, like I said, the chest tubes, those ones just threw me off. Like I was like, wow, when are these coming out? Like it is really hard for me to be, and you didn't want to touch him because you know this isn't pain. You move it into like millimeter, this thing, you know it's hurting. You have something inside of your body and coming out of your, like, that is foreign. It's not supposed to be there. And so still, when I look at him now and I see the chest tube scars, I was like, those ones are hard for me. Like still to this day, like I'm like, I think this one, the zipper, you know, that one is a beauty. I took really good care of that scar. It looks phenomenal. These ones, terrible. They're just, they like hurt my heart like really bad. But anyways, this poor young girl next door ends up getting gallstones. She gets helivac'd in. She's, I don't know how old, but I'm telling you, it was just screaming. I was like, these poor kids in here, like how are they, any of them? It was like 12 hours of screaming until it passed, and then she was quiet and good. But I was like, holy, like this is a test of patience, because it was like you're getting anxiety, you know, you're worrying, you want her to be helped. Like it was just like there was no relief for whatever reason. I was like, there was no drugs to like stop. I don't know if their family didn't believe it. I don't know what the whole situation. I just knew it was like 12 hours of nonstop screaming. And then when she stopped, she was fine or whatever. Never happened, you know, was it passed, and they, you know, and I'm not supposed to know this, right? But I can hear everything. You're freaking next door. I'm well aware of what's going on now. You know, there's not a lot of privacy in these places. But I remember the whole point of me saying this was, I remember, you know, when you're in a place where we were there for 2 weeks after his heart surgery. And when you're in a place, I'm a curious person naturally. and I'm very observant, right? I've said I'm very observant. I grew up being very shy and observing my surroundings and learning how to adapt and how to fit in and, you know, how to please everyone. So I learned this pretty early. And I remember like sitting in there and seeing these kids, and I was like, I've been in here in the morning, I've been in here midday, and I've been in here in the evening, and nobody's come. Like, where are the families? And it was many. It wasn't one or two. And I was just like, this is so weird to me. Like, I don't understand. The nurses would still come in and, you know, do their rounds and stuff and do their things and then leave. And then the child would be by themselves. And finally, you know, because like I said, I'm pretty talkative. Even at that point when I was still a little bit more timid and shy. And I was like, I know you can't tell me everything, but I'm just curious. Why are there so many kids in here with no parents? Like, how come nobody comes and visits them? And she just told me, she just said, they're abandoned. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah, no, they're abandoned. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, why would they do that? Like, the baby is sick. The kid is sick. They like need you more. And they were saying sometimes it's a combination of things, or just one or the other of it. They said the most common is they don't have the mental, emotional ability to see a sick child like that. And so they abandon them. And I was so like, what? Like, I didn't get it. Like, no judgment. I just didn't understand, because here I was so immersed. Like, I was doing what I thought was the only option of doing. I thought I was doing what everybody else was doing, that would be doing in the same situation. The second one they said was almost even more heartbreaking, was because they didn't have the finances for their child. Like, they didn't have good enough insurance or whatever it was. Like, their insurance like would cover it, but not, you know, only to a point. Then they would have to pay for it. So they would abandon the child because the insurance is better if they're just a ward of the state, I guess is how they call it. So basically a foster child, or, you know, I don't know what it's not even a foster because you're in a hospital. So basically they would abandon the child, and then, you know, they're not going to just, you know, discharge the child to the street, or a combination of factors. Both of those combined and those were the main thing. I was floored. Like, I couldn't understand. Like, it just, again, it didn't compute. I didn't understand that this was an option. And I felt so sad for these kids. Like, I just wanted to go in and give each one of them a hug, a teddy bear, a something. Like, I can't imagine, you know, I couldn't imagine, like, you know, some of the days when Brad would have really tough days, and, you know, like, even, you know, like I said, the quality of care for premature babies and even like sick children, like now, like when Dylan's gone in to have surgery, they have these life care specialists. I forget what's life something specialists. And they come in and they explain everything. They give toys. They like try to make it like connect with you. Try to make this scary experience really something that they're a little bit more proactively involved in. They communicate with them. They, you know, will explain things so calmly, allow them to ask questions, show them, like before we've had MRIs, they'll show them on iPad, here's an MRI, here are some of the sounds you'll hear. So to take this like really scary thing and try to, you can't take away the fear, right? But try to talk to them and communicate and explain. So it's like that takes away some of that, you know, the fears of the unknown, right? Obviously. And then they, you know, would talk about how, you know, now there's different things. They have some numbing creams when they do the IVs, and, you know, these other things that will like kind of vibrate on the skin to distract you from it happening. None of them have worked for my kids. Personally, we've tried them, but like they didn't have any of that for Brad. Like, I think back, like it was torturous. Like every hour and a half they needed to take his blood, you know, like to do his test to make sure his electrolytes and all the things were like all in balance. And it was just so often. And, you know, but they would do that and he would like wince and cry, but I could pick him up and hold him. And then he would stop and settle, right? Like it was like, you know, like you had that nurturing, you had that love. And so I couldn't imagine, you know, these children so neglected of that extra little bit of love. And it just made me so sad. And so I say all that to say, like, I was just explaining to my kids about that yesterday. And then it happened to be, you know, they were saying, oh yeah, he had a really tough, you know, life. And, you know, he was abandoned by his parents, and then he was taken on by a coach. And then, you know, I was just like, well, why? You know, like, it just doesn't, I don't understand it. And I know everybody has their own thing, so no judgment. It's just, I get so curious as to like, well, why? You know, like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like that's part of like the struggles and the way our society is now is like, we aren't this whole village a lot of times. Like we are in some ways, and in other ways we're not. Like there's a clear winner and there's a clear loser. And, you know, like there's, you know, like your differences and my like we're not all a cohesive unit. So like if I am struggling with something, you know, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, I don't have this community that is just naturally built in to support one another and to lean on, you know, like the Native Americans when they were here, and it was like, you know, some people would go off and, you know, hunt and others would gather, you know, but they were this whole tribe that came together, and it wasn't all just on the parents or, you know, whoever it was. So I think that that's one of the challenges of our current society is that we don't have some people don't, like, I don't have like a big I have a big, you know, family that I've created, but in four, you know, like 4 kids, like it's not like that big, you know, it's not like it's 12 or, you know, 22 or something crazy like that. But like that is, you know, for today's standards, that is a big family. But I don't have, like, my mom is not accessible and able to come and help, you know, if I need that help. Like my dad is not, he hasn't been that person. He's not available. He has his own things going on and is not like a person I can count on for like those things. And there's no like cousins or brothers or any of that stuff anymore. So it's like, there isn't a whole lot of community that I could rely on beyond like the friends that I have now, created these relationships with, right? Like I can lean on them. Like I say, like I whenever I think of community, the first thing that comes to mind, like of my adult age, is I think about, you know, how that community really rallied around Dylan and how special that was to me. Like that was like, we weren't alone in that situation whatsoever. And so like, that was one of the things about hearing this story about Logan's legacy, was like the community. And like I was just like, I can totally relate to that, because like when you have nothing, just to know that you have this community. And like I mean it's a small thing, but even how when the lady that is opening her bakery and how the community is rallying around them, and it's like everybody's doing the little things that they can do, whether it be word of mouth or donate physically or go and buy something and support, or, you know, wish her well from afar, you know, whatever it is. But I think that that's like, it's so beautiful when communities come together for a really good common goal. So like the stuff that Christian McCaffrey and their family is doing to like bring more Xboxes to kids to help them when they're in this place that you don't want to be. I mean, it's really sad. Like if you've ever had to be in that situation, you know, you see kids in wagons with bald heads because they've been through chemo, and they're carrying their, you know, IV and their things so that they can go around and, you know, get out of their room a little bit, you know. And like I said, Stanford was amazing because it's Stanford and there's a lot of money there. Like there was this whole entire room that had like, big TVs and video games and other games and art supplies. And, you know, you could just go in there and be kids. They would have like, you know, activities at certain times of the day. You know, it was really cool. They had like, you know, for Dylan, who's a foodie, like they had a menu and you could call in and order your food, you know, like it wasn't like, oh, you only had certain times and they brought what you want. It was like, oh, I have to place my order for tomorrow, you know. And so he would like, you know, oh, I want the fettuccine, but I also want the Caesar salad and I want a dessert and I want this drink, you know. I was like, get it all, get everything you want, you know, I don't care. You know, so it was fun for him to get to like order anything he wanted off the menu. And it was pretty cool because he had his own room with his own bathroom in it. You didn't have all these, a huge humongous TV in there and like windows that he could look out and see the helicopters coming and going. And, as soon as he got out of the ICU part, I could take him in the wheelchair and we could go outside. They had this whole like area where they had like a sundial, like just, you could get out of your room. You didn't have to stay in your room. So like really you could make this hospital your home and like you could go outside and like we would every day for a couple hours, like I would, you know, try to move him around and go outside because I was like, there's just something so healing about being outside and getting that fresh air. And if it wasn't too cold, just like wrap him with like those warm blankies and stuff like that. And then we would go out and there was just something about like moving and not being in the same place and seeing different stimuli and breathing fresh air and feeling the sun. That was something that was so healing. And like I say, I go back to the whole point of all of this is like the community and them rallying. And at the end of the day, I'm going to just finish with this is like, if we woke up today, we won, period. Like, I know we put a lot of emphasis on winning and losing and what this end goal is. And, you know, I want this house or I want this purse or I want this car or this relationship and stuff like that. But just being on the journey, we are winning. Like, and I think that it would be like to our own benefit, to our own health, to remind ourselves that. Because the fact that we get to experience these things, the fact that like today I woke up and when I didn't just get excited, you know, when I saw Usher come on or something like that and start jumping, I didn't tear my Achilles. Like, I don't know if he tore it or hurt it or whatever he did, you know, like it's a blessing. Cause like every day that I'm healthy and I'm able, like I really appreciate it. Like I'm grateful for that. And I know that there's a part of us, all of us, that like it's borrowed time. Like there is no guarantee for tomorrow or even for the rest of the day. I can get up here and trip and fall and do something stupid, you know, like, and be like, okay, hey guys, hi, I'm back. Guess what happened now? But I think being able to be in a place where you genuinely, and it's not like I'm trying to like ignore the bad or anything. It's just like, I just am trying to really celebrate the good. And I think that there is so much good, even in disappointing situations, even in the challenging times. Like I say with Dylan, like the first thing I think about when I think about that is not all the horrible things that he's experienced. I think about the community. I think about that rallied around us. I think about human kindness. Like that is literally one of the words that is just so synonymous with that experience. Like just random human kindness. Like from doctors to nurses to strangers to people like wearing his bracelet, inquiring about him, praying for him in their church, sending us vials of holy water. I mean, just you name it. And that's just so, it is like air when you are so sad and depleted because, you know, you're helplessly supporting a child who is sick. Like, you know, so be grateful for where you are. If you have healthy kids, or even if your kids aren't healthy and, you know, like even if your kids are annoying you, like they do that sometimes, just be grateful and know that you are winning. And, you know, every day we're here, every day I get to speak with you guys, every day that you have the courage to listen and hopefully take something on and say, you know what, I can make a difference in my life. I can do things a little bit different. And I know I've always done it this way. And let me try. What do I have to lose? Like if I try and I don't like it, you can go back to the way things have always been. It's always there available to you. But try something new and see if you like it. And if you do, great. And if you don't, great too. And if you do like it, then you practice it and you can like make it part of your daily life. Then go and take that knowledge and teach it to somebody else. And like keep just spreading all this kindness and goodness. And this world will be a better place. And it'll begin with you. So I thank you so much again for tuning in. I apologize for like a little bit of an emotional roller coaster here today. But I love having this opportunity to do this. And thank you so much. So have a wonderful day, evening, morning, night, and still for me, 49er faithful, go Niners. You know what? That's okay. You are winners in my book. That's all that matters. So thank you so much. Have a great evening. Bye.